What's up and welcome to My Point of View. I am your fat and opinionated host, also known as Cinema Shogun. And it was recently revealed that Bryan Kohberger has no connection to the Idaho 4. The Gonzalez family lawyer says that none of the Idaho 4, none of them, had any idea who Bryan was. Now, I've talked about this a little bit over on my main channel, and I've talked about it here. But I want to expand upon this a little bit because I haven't gotten out all of my opinions, and I also want to explain some things further. Now, a lot of people find it hard to believe that Bryan did not know at least one of these four individuals, and I understand why people feel that way. But like I've been saying, for me, I felt like it was more about the act for Bryan as opposed to who he was committing this act against. But we know that this wasn't just a situation where he drove by someone's house and was like, hey, I'm going to go do this right now. Because we know he watched them. He stalked them. He cased their house so closely. He was so close to their house that his phone picked up on their freaking Wi-Fi. How creepy is that? So I'm thinking that it went further than just Kohberger sitting outside of his car, outside of their home in his car some nights. I wouldn't be surprised if Kohberger was behind that home looking into the house, because the way the house is set up in the back, you could see everything if they don't close the curtains and blinds and stuff. But there has to be something here, in my opinion. I don't think that Bryan Kohberger and these four individuals necessarily knew each other. And I made this point, and I want to make it again. Just because the Idaho 4 didn't know of Bryan doesn't mean that Bryan didn't know of them. Oftentimes throughout our day, we encounter various human beings. And for I may walk past you at the store and we may say hey to each other. Now for me, that may just be, you may just be one of 100 people who I said hey to today. So I don't even remember you. I hardly even register that this interaction happened. But for the other person, maybe you're the only person that said hey to them today. Maybe there's something there, and for them, that little piece of interaction is more for them. It's more memorable for them. So I do think that maybe Bryan could have ran into these four, or one of these four individuals, and it may have meant nothing to them, but it may have meant a whole lot to Bryan. But at the very least, we know that Bryan watched this house for months, so why this house? I think there's a huge possibility here that Bryan may have had no connection with the Idaho 4, but maybe he had some connection to this home. Meaning maybe he had been there, maybe he knew of this place, I don't know. But if you're driving around town and you want to do something like what Bryan's alleged of doing, what makes you hone in on this one home? What made you watch it for months and months on end if there was no connection at all? Maybe he just knew the type of house this was, knew young college girls would be there. Big possibility. But I'm not so sure if I'm ready to write off the fact that if there was a connection here. I'm not ready to write that off. Because I do think that there's still a possibility that there could be a connection. Maybe not a connection that any of the family members of these victims can find. But Bryan chose this home, and I guess these people for a reason, regardless if he knew them or not. So I would really like to know why. But then to take it one step further, we can't talk about the surviving roommate DM a lot. because people either take it too far in either direction. Either people are too protective, and as soon as you say anything, they freak out. Or people start attacking and blaming her. But the question is, why, if there was no connection to these four individuals, why would Bryan walk right past DM and do nothing to her? She saw him. From the way it sounds, they saw each other, and he just walked right out the door. Why is that? If there was no connection to the four individuals who Bryan allegedly did what he did to, unalived, then why walk right past the other individual? Was Bryan too tired? Maybe Bryan figured, oh, she probably called 911? Or was there some sort of connection here? But also, oftentimes with these weirdos, it's a numbers game. A lot of this stuff all ties into numbers and numerology and things like that. So sometimes people who decide to do things like this, they have a certain number and a goal that they want to hit in their head. I can't begin to explain why, and I'm not going to try to in this video, because I don't understand why these people's minds work the way that they do, but we've seen that before. Sometimes the number is something for them. It does something for them or something. So all, in my opinion, where I'm sitting right now, I'm not telling you what to believe or what to think. You can form your own opinions and come to your own conclusions. But just to tell you where I'm at, I don't think that Bryan necessarily knew these individuals, like knew them. But I also don't think that Bryan was just driving through the neighborhood one day and was like, hey, I'm going to go to this house and take out these four people. I feel like there's a little bit, there's a little more there. There's some type of something there. You know, I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's that random. I do think, like I keep saying, it's more about the act for Bryan as opposed to who the act was against. I believe that Bryan's whole education, all of that was because Bryan was this weird, sick individual that decided to go ahead and go about doing something like this. You know, this was not, a random spur of the moment thing. This was totally premeditated, allegedly. So I believe there's some sort of connection there. Not necessarily a personal connection, but there's something there. There's some reason why Bryan chose to do what he did at that house to those four individuals. Maybe we will never know. Maybe the details will come out in court. Only time will tell. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell. That's very important. Ring that notification bell. And as always, remain opinionated.